In today's soul steering episode, I have an author, a speaker, and a minister, Reverend Karl Brown, who joins the SelfSeed Podcast to just share, to speak or to anyone who has ever felt that thought of not being enough. You felt overlooked, you felt unqualified, or you were just stuck on the cycle, that endless cycle of doubt. Today we are drawing knowledge from his books, which include the Steadfast Faith, and then we have the Powered Up Man and Affirmed by Faith. Today he's sharing on how he's going to share with us on how biblical identity and daily affirmation can actually fuel courage and consistent growth. And I can actually attest that this conversation is one not to miss. It's one not to miss because we have there are a lot of how do they say that word? Anecdotes. Is it? Anyways, there are many insights that you can grab from the podcast. So whether you're leading a ministry or you're leading a business or you're just on your own household, if you're leading your own household, your family, I believe that this episode will become a reminder that you have the power and you have the power within you because of who has made us. And so if you're struggling or if you just need to gain more insights, this is the SelfSeed Podcast with Activate Core Virtual Book Tour 2025. And our guest is Reverend Karl Brown. So be sure to subscribe to the SelfSeed Podcast because there are a lot more goodies coming along. And thank you to all the listeners that support the podcast. Thank you to all of you who tune in daily, weekly, and grab a thing or two. Thank you to all those who send me messages and those who I meet in real life and they give me, that encouragement that you're doing a good job and you're why I haven't seen you. Some people kept asking me why I haven't seen the podcast for a long while. Thank you to all of you for supporting the podcast, and I hope that you will subscribe, but at the same time you gain more value from your subscription to the podcast. So thank you, and let's go. Let's finish up the virtual book tour with power. All right, welcome back to the SelfSeed Podcast. Welcome back, and we already have Revival. Is it Revival, right? Reverend. Oh my Lord. Reverend Karl Brown on the podcast. It's nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
It's I am honored to have this moment with you, and because I have read a lot of details, I do some shallow research before we get onto the podcast. So I think it's interesting. Okay. You have an interesting profile. So and I would like you to first maybe introduce yourself to the audience in case someone wants to know deeply or more about you, and then we can begin because I have some questions prepared well for you.
I always say others could do better talking about me than I talk about myself. But as was mentioned before, I'm Karl Brown. I serve as a reverend. I pastor Glory Carriers International Ministries Apostolic in Kingston, Jamaica. All right. I'm an author of 4 books. I've authored 4 books so far, and the founder of the Powered Up Man Mentorship Network. And that was born out of the fact that I had written one of the books called The Powered Up Man, a 30-day devotional for men. So outside of that sphere, I am a certified fashion designer and image consultant, along with other few things that I do. So, yes, sir.
You see, that's why I say Revival Brown has many talents, has many qualifications. Apart from being a reverend, you're also a certified fashion designer. And yet you have written this book, you have started a movement, and you're powering up life. I like that. And in your writing, and mentorship, this area that you have decided to focus on, which means you're helping people to reclaim their confidence and let's say power, being able to lead, reminding people of the authority that they have. So I am curious to know as to at which point in your life did you think and see, oh, this is where I really want to begin impacting life, and God affirmed that, okay, now it's your time to rise and lead.
There was a point in my life, that season, where I thought I was doing everything right, or I was, doing everything right, and externally rather, serving, pouring into others, but inside it felt like there was something more I could have done. Yes, and that real turning point came in a quiet moment of surrender. It wasn't on stage, it wasn't preaching, it was just in that quiet time where God reminded me that all that I've experienced, it was preparation to just help others, right? It wasn't an instant change, but it was confirmation that my voice and my scars, they could, impact someone else.
Yeah.
It was that moment that I stopped waiting for right from others, but just realizing that God is now affirming me to use my experiences to pour into others.
Powerful. And I'm curious to know also, did you immediately take the U-turn or the transition, or did it take you a moment to now say, get your affairs right, as the end of times is around the corner? But yeah, did you take some time, or it was immediately that you understood this voice and you decided, yeah, I'm going to take charge and I'm going to rise and lead, and I'm going to begin empowering others? Was it immediate, or did it take a certain process?
I could almost say immediately, because the it came with such a sense of urgency, right? Yeah. It came with such a sense of urgency, because by this time now I was engaging in counseling people, having sessions with persons, and especially the men, and that was not by choice. It was just that they were finding me from all spheres of life. And then I just thought, there is an urgency here, and that's how the writing started coming into being, because I'm like, if there are others who will never get to know me, who will never come to my office space or call me on the phone, but at least a book could go across the globe, and still impact others. So I believe it came with the sense of urgency while dealing with the persons in my immediate surrounding. I thought, this is not just an isolated need. It seems as if it's a pandemic, it's global, where the men really needed help. It came, it was almost immediate that I said, no, there must be something I should be able to do by God's grace to help.
Powerful. I like that. I asked this question because today's world, we have, that feeling of, oh, I don't belong. A man, you cannot identify as to, okay, what's my role? People don't take the initiative, don't take charge and all that. And we have self-doubt and all that. And so that's why I wanted to question this as, did you immediately, and I like the point that it came with a sense of emergency and urgency, and you decided to act upon it. And then in your book, Affirmed by Faith, you mentioned that affirmations are something that are a powerful tool, right? In a time where some person may be struggling with doubt or imposter syndrome or identity. So I really want to know, because sometimes in the world today, affirmation, especially from your perspective as a believer, what role does affirmation play in someone reaching the point in which they are supposed to reach their potential, especially for leadership role, and male and all that?
Well, we're in an identity crisis culture.
Correct.
And titles, status, followers. We're so social media driven now.
Right.
That we feel validated by the amount of followers we have. The amount of comments that we get on our posts, right? And that seemed to be, a thing that define the worth of not just men, but just persons, on a whole. But biblical affirmation cuts through all that noise. They root us not in opinion, but in truth, biblical truth. And when persons face, you mentioned about the imposter syndrome. A verse like Psalm 139, verse 14 says, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." Can you imagine? It isn't just an encouragement, it is a reminder of our identity from the Creator Himself. Affirmations help us to retain our inner dialogue to align with God's Word. What are we saying about ourselves? How do we view who we are? Not the world's words and opinion, but the truth of the Word of God. What is it saying about me? They build spiritual muscles. And in that time when people are forgetting who they are, biblical truth help them to remember.
They really are.
So biblical affirmations, they're very necessary in this time and season.
I like the way that one time when I was doing the podcast episode, I also talked about how there's too much noise right now, and we tend to live on a tide. We live on a tide where we have influencers, we have real leaders and all that, and sometimes influencers can make you feel like, oh, you are not enough, or you're not doing the right thing, or you are not you're not even a perfect man and all that. And so I like the way that you say biblical affirmations remind us of how we are wonderfully and creatively made, great. And now I want to move a little bit again to your platform that came up from your book, The Powered Up Man. And in your mentorship platform, I see that you're creating a space for men to grow spiritually and emotionally. And so I'm curious to know as to what are you seeing in this generation. As you said, it prompted you, it's like a plague that is affecting this generation. So what are you seeing in this generation of men that inspired you actually to begin this movement, write this book immediately, and send it across the world, especially for people that cannot reach your office space or your cycle and all that?
Honestly, I see marginalized men, hungry men, not just for success, but for significance. Men who are craving connection, but often suffer silently. They're asking questions like, do I matter? Am I enough? Where do I fit in? I've seen brothers who look strong on the outside, but were battling pain, father wound, spiritual fatigue. I've had men who, by the time they come through my office door and close the door, I have to get a roll of napkin, not even starting to speak as yet. I've seen, like leaders, persons that you think in your own eyes are so strong and powerful, but they could not wait for the opportunity to just come and close the door behind them and just break down. Just break. That's why the Powered Up Man was written. And by extension, the Powered Up Man Mentorship Network was born to speak life into those spaces. It's a call to rise in identity, not ego, and there's a big difference, to lead not just in the world, but first in the spirit. The movement is about recharging men, not to dominate, but walk in divine design. Not to seem powerful, but to have presence.
I like that. I like the core objectives as to, in today's world, we feel like men don't have a vacuum in which they can air out how they feel, but creating that sense of a community or an environment where people as men can exchange and being able to help one another. And I like that. And in this aspect of this powered up man, how does a man or anyone actually just lead from a place of overflow instead of exhaustion? As you say, sometimes people come to your office and they cannot just wait to just shut the door behind and break down and all that. That meaning they are worn out, they are exhausted and all that. But how can someone now just lead from a place of joy, overflow, feeling blessed and all that, and which means more joy in the world? Yeah. So how does a man or anyone actually just listening to the podcast lead from this angle?
Well, first of all, it will allow the men to realize that one, they are not in a unique position. Because sometimes, and what the plan of the enemy is, or how most men feel, is that I'm the only one going through this.
Yeah.
But when you come into a community like that and realize that, that there's somebody else that's dealing with what I'm dealing with, but yet still they are not as pressured as I am, or they're not as overwhelmed as I am, or here they're finding an avenue to deal with the stuff they're dealing with. So this, coming into a community like this, would really power you up to still go on. It's not perfect, but with a community of like that with support. Mentorship includes persons who are experienced and ahead of the game. You could come on in and just hear somebody else, how they handled the same situation that you are now dealing with. And you're able to realize that I don't have to be smoking or taking drugs or doing other stuff to think that I'm dealing with this, or to put a plaster on my wound. Here is somebody else. Here is a set of men who know what I'm talking about.
Who can relate.
Mentorship also allows you to not, fall into the same error that someone, others would have fallen in. So, that's the kind of movement that we're dealing with. And when you come into a space like that, it will allow you to realize that I can get through this, and even get through it in a better way than I had imagined.
Powerful. The essence of overflow, because you have these people around you, and you have people who have experienced what you have experienced. As the proverb says, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything has happened already. So like the essence of this movement. And initially I asked you about the obedience part, about you hearing this voice and immediately tuning your mind into dealing with this pandemic, this problem that we have in this generation. And in that essence, I just wanted to pinpoint the point that leadership is easy. It's easy to say things about leadership and take control and all that, and talk about purpose and all that. But sometimes, this respect or obedience can be the difficult thing to do. Like you know that I'm supposed to do this, I'm wonderfully made, I am created to create and all that, but you do not get created to lead, created to listen, but we don't take that charge because maybe lack of obedience a little bit. And I'm curious to know, what was that one moment in maybe in your life, or in your across your experiences with people, that actually you had to obey even when it didn't feel easy? What was this one moment in your life that, for the person listening, as we are saying, mentorship and helping people not to go the same drain? How about you practically?
One of the hardest acts of obedience was walking away from something that I was good at. Sometimes you could be at a place where you think that I'm at the right place.
I'm nailing it.
Perfect. This is it. This is it. I'm going to dwell here. So that was one of the challenge of walking away from something I was good at. But guess what? I was good at it, but was no longer graced for it. And we have to understand that you could be good at something, but then
the grace has
you could have been for a season. You could be graced for something for a season. And I just want to add here that a lot of persons are still operating in an area that they're no longer graced for, just because they're good at it.
Grace
But
has
the
left that
grace
place.
is not the grace for that season, that project, that ability is not there anymore. I had become comfortable, if I should say, respected even. But I knew God was shifting me into a new space, writing, mentoring, speaking life into men. It meant leaving security for uncertainty. And as I say this, I remember Abraham. You know, it was Abraham when the Lord, every time he thought he was at a comfortable place, the Lord said, "You have dwelt," at one point said, "You have dwelt long enough in this mountain. Move to somewhere else." It meant letting go of applause to hear from God more clearly. Because now you're shifting from a familiar place to an unfamiliar place. You are so used to the applause from men, you know. It meant I wrestled with the what ifs, you know. What if it didn't work? You know, what if the books never get sold? What if no one signed up to the mentorship network? but obedience isn't about clarity, it's about trust. It's about trust. Looking back, that led to books, mentorship, healing moments with men, and a moment I could have missed if I had stayed in my comfort zone.
I like one aspect I took from that. There are two aspects. One is obedience is not about just understanding where you're going, but it's more about the trust, the faith in the instructions given. And I also take the part that you might be good at something, but actually the grace has a long time left. And that's why maybe the project is not going through. That's why it's like you're giving your everything, but yet it is not working. And maybe the grace is no longer there, and we have to attune ourselves to listen and hear, okay, what's the next move? What am I supposed to do?
And it really could cost you if you're operating in ability and not grace. You could become exhausted. You could be doing so many things, making so much effort, but it's like burdensome. I might if I might add, my first book took me about 10 years. And I realized afterwards that I probably wasn't graced for it. 3 books took me less than a year. That's when I knew now I was walking in the grace to write. So you understand what I'm saying? It did happen, but it took 10 years. It took all my resources, right? But then now, in less than a year, writing 3 books. And God would have allowed me to find means and ways of, getting these books done. And it didn't cost me half as much as it cost me for the first one. And I realized that there is a grace on me now to do what I'm doing rather than even when I started 10 years ago.
Perfect timing on God's grace. God's grace is on a perfect timing. And thank you very much for that. And I will actually start working on that. I like the idea, and I'll have to paste it somewhere on my wall. It's not about ability, it's more about grace. And thank you very much for that. And I think it's a wonderful discussion that we are having. And I'm curious to know, how can people, begin to this movement, join the movement? How can they connect with you, get your books, or even join the Powered Up Man network or a mentorship network and all that? Because it's I think it's very interesting listening from this podcast, and it will be even more interesting for people to begin to join the movement.
Oh, definitely. Okay, so all the books are on Amazon. It's Karl Brown. If you search for that author's name, search by author's name, you should be able to see the books. It's Steadfast Faith, Powered Up Moments, The Powered Up Man, and Affirmed by Faith, right? All of these are available on Amazon. The Powered Up Man Mentorship Network, there is Instagram page for that. PUM Mentorship.
Yeah.
Powered Up Man Mentorship Network. It's on Instagram. And also, if you want to be an active member, you could sign up to the WhatsApp group. It's 876-807-1693. 876-807-1693. If you message me to say you want to be a part of the network, I send you the link and you join that WhatsApp community. We do have sessions. We're trying to get some structure, more structure to it, because we started about 2 months ago. We've had one session before, excuse me, and another one is being lined up. Very, very interesting stuff we deal with as it relates to men. So that network. So we have the WhatsApp community, and then there we post when we have Zoom sessions. So we have sessions now in the Zoom room with the men, that we have discussions, and people are just able to talk and express themselves. And if we need to connect outside of the public platform, that can also be arranged. And then we connect even with specialists in different areas that can address, different situations that the men are dealing with. It's a movement, it's a network of great men.
Powerful. You're powering up men to become great, and that's the good thing. That's a good. It sounds good. And before we go, I was remembering something about when we were talking about the grace not being there, and we are walking in the ability. And one example came to me was how the Israelites, when they were moving into Egypt and into Canaan, and at some point they knew they were told that the grace of God is no longer there. They will not win, but they were like, yeah, we shall do it. And they were killed, and then they suffered, they ran away. And thank you very much, Reverend, for being on the podcast. It was amazing. But you have Instagram, you have the books, you have WhatsApp as well. Probably the listener has seen on the screen there, and they have seen the how to join. And maybe I'll be the first also to lead my people to join your platform. So thank you very much for tuning to for joining us on the podcast and sharing these awesome insights. I think if you have anything additional, because as for me, I want to say as for me and my family, as for me, I'm curious to maybe to conclude the podcast on my end is the last additional question is, like, what's the one affirmation or truth that every listener can start speaking over their life today as they're about to leave the podcast? What can they take away?
There is that scripture that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that's not just cliches or just something that I'm reading. That's something that I have been able, that's a truth that I've been able to walk in and access myself. Recently, I was on travel for about 6 weeks. And in that space, that time, I was able to sell over 70 copies, almost 100 copies.
Interesting.
Of my books in 6 weeks. It ended up to be a book tour. Didn't organize it, didn't plan it, but I just walked, into favor and did all of this. So when I say I can do all things, I mean all things. I can step in a space and God just open doors and do things that are exceeding abundantly above all I could ever ask or imagine. If I was asking the Lord to bless me on this trip, I probably would say, Lord, bless me that I could sell 10 books. I probably would be so narrow-minded. But, it was just mind-blowing. And just to add to this, that I left to speak in one convention, one night. And for 6 weeks, I was preaching and doing revival all across the areas that I was
area
in.
that you were in. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I tell you that I can do all things, I really believe that. I really know if we really allow the Lord to lead us, you
Yeah.
find yourself, walking through doors that can't imagine. I've
Mm.
seen myself taking territories and places, and I'm not being boastful, but
Mm.
that nobody else in my generation has ever walked in.
Mm.
And you know why? Because I am one of the few in the family, unfortunately, that walk in this kind of authority
Yeah.
and really believe the Lord to this degree.
Yeah.
So when I say I can do all things, or tell you that you could take that away, you can't do that.
Mm.
You can live in that realm. All things, and all means
Unimaginable
all.
realm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all is not some. All means all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And it's actually interesting because I tend to also speak on this particular verse. I tend to speak of it even when it's very hard. Sometimes I'm in the gym and it's getting hard, and I just say I can do all things through Christ to strengthen me. One more, and the grace, I can just say the grace, even when it's tough on my end as well. Sometimes when I'm thinking hard enough and things are not working, but I say I can do, and it's just like this new energy comes into me, and I get a breakthrough. I get the boost to continue. So it's very interesting, and I think this should be in bold letters on the screen right now, and for the listener to also grab this. I can do all things through Christ to strengthen me. Thank you very much, Revive Karl. And I think if you have anything else to share with the listener that they can connect with you, if there's any other means that they can connect with you, it's we're about to wrap it up. And on my end, I'm humbled to have you on the podcast and hear about the Powered Up Man mentorship network. And I hope to also be one of those great men that passed in the platform, yeah.
Definitely, it would be good to have you, and I'm sure while you get powered up, you also will be able to be a blessing to others.
Amen.
Right? So
Amen.
definitely, as we get off, you could just drop me a message and I get you hooked up with that. But I have a Facebook page. It's Karl Brown. That's my Facebook. I think it's Karl Glory Carrier Brown. Yes, you can find me also on Facebook. And as I mentioned, there is the Powered Up Man Mentorship Network, and I've given my number already. But those are some of the major platforms that you can find me on.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming to the podcast, and thank you very much for sharing this awesome insights. I enjoyed, and I hope the listener also enjoyed to the same extent in which I enjoyed and learned something actually. And we can support Karl Brown and buying one of his books, because I believe one of them can be a tool. If not, also join the platform. So that's one way for us to always show support to the people coming to the podcast. Thank you very much, Reverend, for coming to the podcast today. And to the listener,
thank you very much.
Listening, and see you next time.